Dr. Irene Musebe, a mother of 3 sons, and of course in a family of 5 people, including the father. The father is Professor Richard Musebe, a professor at Moi University. Motherhood is okay. Motherhood is a call like many of the vocations that are not paid, that you live in society to embrace. And motherhood is ideally very good because you look at a small baby who is just being born as a day old, and the milestones that this child takes you through, the development stages that this child takes you through as the mother. It gives you joy, and it gives your life a meaning. I wouldn't think of any other vocation better than being a mother. It is actually something that is godly, and I think God had a very big purpose by creating mothers, and more so mothers to the sons. I lost my smallest baby, my last born. He was 21 years old. He was a 3rd-year civil engineering student at JKUAT. I lost him on 9th of January this year, 2020. I lost him in circumstances which are still a shock to the family, and whenever I think about it, I shed tears. It was a painful loss, and even up to now, the family members, we as the family members, myself, the father and the brothers, we are yet to come to terms with the fact that actually we lost Lewis. Now, of course, as a mother, you don't anticipate to lose your child. And losing a child, I would say, is the worst thing that can happen to a mother, can happen to a father, can happen to brothers and sisters. Lewis, of course, was a bubbly child. He was ideally full of life. He was full of life. He was one of those people you would not think of a particular health challenge to him. He had never been admitted. Since his birth, he was admitted only once before he was 5 years. And thereafter, he has not been admitted anywhere. On the fateful day, whatever happened was that I went with my baby to JKUAT early morning, racing to beat 1, the traffic jam, 2, the timing for his classes. Little did I know that I was racing my child to meet the killers. So we left my house as usual, 5:30, because he was a day scholar. He used to commute. And on arrival at campus, I asked my son, we were late by 2 minutes. I asked him, is 2 minutes too much? Have you lost so much? He told me, no, it is fine. The lecturer who is there is usually an early riser, and I'll find him already in class, but it is okay. So I tell him that at around 1, I will also be done with my assignment on campus, and we would meet around the cafeteria JKUAT within the compound. And he had a confirmed class as from 10 as well. So 2 classes, 7 to 10, then 10 to 1 were confirmed classes. and I expected my son would be in both classes. But the 2 to 5 class had not been confirmed. So it's like we were to meet at 1, and probably over the lunch hour, we would learn whether the afternoon session is confirmed or not confirmed. But come 1, I called my son and he could not answer. That was not characteristic of him. Called again, he could not answer. I called again, he did not answer. I let it be. And then the people I had been meeting that morning came around and is like, Irene, let's go for lunch. What are you doing here? Told them that I was trying to look around for my son for lunch. Then I said, okay, but I've called him twice, thrice. If he finds that missed call, he would call back. So we walked into the cafeteria with those people. We had lunch. And then at 2, I called again and called and called. He was not answering. I went to the library, sat down to do some work. And then at 3, I called again and called. And then at that level, I informed the father. I told him, Lewis is not picking up his phone. I don't know what the issue is. And yet we were to meet at 1, and it is already now 2 hours. Can you call him? So he called him, nothing. We informed the brother, said, okay, if we cannot answer the parents' call, maybe the sibling, he will relate closely and answer his call. And the brother called and called. There was no answer. There was no response completely. I remained in the library, but at around 4, the mother in me woke up and is like, no, just walk around and find out where Lewis could be. So I walked out and brought my things into the car that we had used and started walking around. And I was just like looking for any third-year civil engineering student to ask, are you people having a class? Or any other civil engineer to know how their timetable is like for the day. Of course, I did not manage to get any, because as it was, like that afternoon session was cancelled. It was not there. So I said, where could he be? Maybe he's studying somewhere. I walked in class, just class, the civil engineering block where it is, both the ground floor and first floor. Someone has been on JKU at campus. I did not see anyone. And then I came back. Of course, that was like 5 already. And it's like this 5, if there was a class anywhere, it will be closing. So I waited in the car, nothing happening. 6, I woke up again and walked through the building, walked through the dean's building, where the other civil engineers have classes, nothing. I, of course, know JKU very well, at least the settings, so I was able to walk there. And when I failed, around 7, my husband calls me and is like, hey, are you going to sleep on that campus all in the name of looking for your son? What do you do? Because that day we had pulled the transport, the 3 of us. We had left him at Gigiri, where he does some little consultancies with a group of people called Kabi. And I had, of course, accompanied my son. Dad drove the car from home to his office. And after he dropped out, it's me who took over the drivership. Then our son changed from the back seat into the passenger seat, and we went. So he tells me, you come back home, please come and pick me because I'm also still here waiting for you people. Then we go. We can discuss to know what to do. So after I came back, of course I came back with a lot of uneasiness. You have gone with your son and you don't know where he is and you're driving back home. So when I picked him, I was like, okay, probably this is an issue that we need to inform the police. Let's just inform the police. And then from the police, they have a way of tracking the phone. They may be able to tell us where the phone is. And probably we can either request them, we go with them to search around where the phone is, or alternatively, we can pick up from there tomorrow. His phone was still ringing, and his phone remained ringing for 6 days. Smartphone which cannot keep power for more than a day remained on for 6 days, from the Thursday 9th to 14th when the postmortem was being done. We went and reported at Karen because it was getting late. It's like, let us not have any other routes. We go straight towards home and then report to the nearest police station. We went reporting at Karen police station. We were given an OB number. And by that time, it was getting to like 10. By the time we were finishing the reporting. And according to those police officers, it's like it is quite late to drive back to Juja. What we do, we cool it off. And then it's like, okay, we asked them, where is the phone? So they were able to track the phone and told us it is ringing from Juja sewage. So I remember saying, why? Juja sewage, are you trying to say my son has entered the sewage pool? What are you people talking about, sewage? They said, no, that is where how that mast is registered. It's registered as Juja sewage. So I said, okay, fine. So they declined going to chase for the phone that evening. And I was told to go home. Of course, my husband remained with them a little bit. I don't know for what. Me, I went home, quite uneasy, disturbed, and I couldn't sleep. So in the morning, very early in the morning, 5, I was already up. In fact, I woke up at 4, I think. Started preparing, and then my husband is like, hey, today, why are you up so early? I told him, you know, as a mother, when part of your intestines are not known where it is, that's the exact word I used. You cannot be at ease. So I have had very bad sleep, and therefore I want to be on the road going towards Juja by 6. Then he said, it's good we strategize on how we shall move. I asked him, are you going to come with me? He said, no, I can't come with you. Why? I have a lot of work in the office. I said, okay, for you men, you prioritize your work, but for me as a mother, I have to prioritize my son. No, I was just surprised because it's like, where could he be? He has never behaved in any such a manner as to leave us completely in the blank without any indication of where he could be. So to me, I was just worried. But now when my husband talked like we need to strategize, a thought crossed my mind. I remembered we have a director of administration at the Ministry of ESC who had been a DC and later on those county commissioners. She was a county commissioner, she's a lady. So I said, okay, let me call her. Maybe she knows a CID officer or someone who can assist me at a personal level searching for my son. So I call her that very early morning. She picks up and is like, I will be in the office around 7:30. So probably if you come, then we can trace someone. So I was in the office by 7. Then she came in at 7:30. We tried tracing someone. We talked to our CID boss. And the CID, of course, said he would be able to assist in the search. And then I left our offices to come to CID headquarters. I call him while there and he tells me, no, me, I'm in the CID Training Institute, which is in South Sea. I am not at the DCI's office, but he's in DCI Training Institute, which is in South Sea. But he tells me, if you're already there, that is still fine. I can call another DCI officer so that he could assist us. So he called someone, and someone by the name Smartwa comes around. So he says, okay, someone has talked to him. And then, of course, he does the basics, trying to trace where the phone is. And then the phone is still at Juja sewage. So I even became more worried because this was like now going to almost 9:10. And the phone is still in the Juja sewage. I revisited the issue of what may have happened. Has my kid drowned in the sewage again? But of course, I said I have to be strong for the time being, because unless the body is found in that sewage, it is not done. And then I requested this officer to wake up, we go. He says, no, there is a protocol. Let us go and inform my boss to assign me the job officially, and then we look for the car, and then we go. Then we go to the officer. He's like, now, first of all, you have to request for Safaricom call log of his phone. And then what did they say? They said their system of calling for that had been low, and therefore it will have to be done manually. So now it meant them writing a letter, they email to someone in Safaricom, and then Safaricom would act. So by 1, I'm still at DCI's office. But at around 11, when my husband called me and I told him I'm still just here, I've not reached Juja, he decided to go to Juja directly. He went to Juja police station and told them about a missing boy, and they requested them they search. So they drove around and around, trying to trace where that phone was sounding from. And every time they were bringing him in the middle of the road. They rotate around, they say, they go this way, bring him in the middle of the road. So to him it's like, if it is here, then pick it. And yet they are not able to pick it, and the phone was on. So we were not able to understand how that was the issue with all their technology of being able to trace the phones of the road, between the highway that comes to town and the highway that is going to Thika. To Thika, yes, in the middle. But they are not able to pinpoint that, yes, this is the exact location. So it's like, what is the game here?
What was the explanation?
You see, when they reach that level, they can't give you an explanation. And that had been the same the previous day. And in the night when we were searching, no, was it in the night? No, that was the same day during the day and again later on in the night. With now the team from DCI's office. During the day, it was the team at Juja police station. So when we reached 1, I said no, because I had an appointment with Lewis's professor. So I called him. He tells me, yeah, I'm in the office and I've been waiting for you. So I told that officer, no, me, I cannot continue sitting here. Let me at least go on campus. I meet this professor. This professor will be able to identify the class rep. Then somehow they will identify the friends. And then the friends can come and tell us whether they have seen Lewis, what is the story, is there anything they know. So I go, I reach Juja, JKUAT, I find this professor. And sure enough, he calls in the class rep, and the class rep says he did not attend the previous day's early morning class of 7 to 10, but he was to be with Lewis in the class 10 to 1. And he said Lewis was not there in that class of 10 to 1. Then he called someone who had attended the early morning class of 7 to 10, and this person, he actually called him to come in that professor's, Professor Musebe's office. So he comes and says, yes, Lewis was in class and he was just right behind me. We attended class, and after the class was over, we dispersed. And then now, what is the scenario? And the professor says that same day they were bringing scripts. They were handing in some scripts of a cat. So he asked the class rep, did Lewis hand in his? No, he did not hand in his. Then he says they are usually close with some girl called Judy Njeru. Did Judy Njeru hand in her script? But yes, she sent someone. She didn't come herself. So apparently it's like Lewis was close to this girl called Judy Njeru. And it's like almost they were like working together maybe. I don't know whether it is group discussion or anything beyond that. I don't know. But the professor took her phone and called Judy Njeru and introduced himself. This is Professor Musebe. I'm looking for you. Can you come to my office? Surprisingly, this girl is very rude. Tells Professor, me, I'm having a date today. It was a Friday. I'm having a date. I'm not coming. Professor, I will see you on Monday. Then she hangs up the phone. To me, I think it was not the normal way that we know you handle your professor. That ended, and then we come out. I came out. Yeah, we went to the hospital. Professor was suggesting that, we looked for someone last year, and kumbe someone had fallen sick and had gone to hospital. So start with the campus hospital and see if you can trace, not find out from any other hospitals around. So I went looking now, starting to look in hospitals, because Lewis is not being traced. At that time, my young son, mwenye anafuata, joined me, Bellarmine. Then now we started moving together, and I had not eaten anything since morning, since the previous day. So I was feeling like I would actually drop. I was feeling dizzy. And he tells me now, Mom, let's look for a soda somewhere or some food you eat, because like this you're not going to manage. So we went to the cafeteria. It had closed. Then they showed us another cafeteria. We go there, we find only sodas and chapati. So I sat down and started taking. And then my husband joined us. When he learned that we were now on campus, I think they stopped the search with those Juja police station at around 3, and he came and joined us. And then this other team from DCI joined us around some minutes to 5. And then now we started all over again. They called the class rep who came, and the class rep was helping us try to call the friends of Lewis, called someone called Martin Shikuku, who came. But when he was coming, when he arrived, that's when he learned that these are cops, police officers. The boy started trembling, literally. Could see him shaking, even failing to talk. To me, it's like this boy, that time, before we even knew that our son had died, he knew. He had come to know that this boy was, because why was he trembling? And maybe he knows the full story of what may have happened to Lewis. And now these officers, okay, I posed a question. And the other reason why he was picked upon is that the previous day, on 8th, he had called Lewis like 28 times.
In the classroom?
No. Someone called Benedict Skuku. He'd called Lewis 28 times. So to me, it's like, okay, you called Lewis 28 times. What was the issue? What was the conversation all about? He fixes a story which was not here nor there. That Lewis had wanted the contact of his sister, who had done medicine and had graduated the previous day, the previous year, in November, was it December? The reason why he was looking for that contact is so that he can link up a sister of his to see if she can be mentored to join medicine. Lewis does not have a sister. Lewis does not have a cousin. And apparently he said that it was the girl who was to be mentored was in Form 3. Lewis does not have a cousin in Form 3, even this year. Lewis has a cousin who is doing education in KU. Lewis has a cousin who was finishing last year procurement in Kisi University. So I proclaimed, I said, that is not a story that makes sense. That story does not make sense to me. And Benedict, please tell us, what is it you are talking with Lewis? Then these cops pull Benedict aside, going to talk to him where I am not. And there's like, calm down, as they are going with him. So we sat in the car. I sat in the car for almost like an hour. Then I woke up, I became impatient. I wondered what is it that they're talking about for so long, and they don't want us to be party to. So I go to where the police were. So I asked them, what is it that's coming out now? Because it's getting late. I thought one of the issues was to trace Lewis's phone, wherever it is calling from. And then it so happens that the next most frequent caller was actually this girl called Judy Njeru. That was the second most frequent caller. So to me, it's like if we are spending 2 hours, 3 hours with one person, and it is already getting dark, how shall we cover these other people? And then I realized something. Two of the police officers, there were 3. 2 of the police officers were on phones, 2 phones, comparing this phone and comparing this one, comparing this phone and comparing this one. That disturbed me. What are these people doing? When I move close, they run away. They walk away. So, but in the confusion, they released the Benedict boy to go away. Then they said what? They said this is an institution for us police officers to be here is wrong. What we do, let's go and probably reorganize ourselves at the police station, Juja police station. So we start arranging ourselves on how we are going to the police station. I had a car, the father had a car. Okay, the brother had come by matatu. And then those police officers had a car. So they decide that Bellarmine joins them in their car. Okay, then we say, okay, we are just following one another. There is no problem. Then they had proposed that they go with the Bellarmine to trace for the phone alone. So the mother in me is like, no, I have lost one child. I'm yet to know what has happened to him, and I'm not going to release another one to go with these cops whom I have not known much about. So I told they had suggested that we go to the police station, then I will join them, or the father joins them before they go tracing the phone. So as we are coming out, they drive off very fast. And by the time us and the father were getting to the gate, because there is the checking and what have you, I couldn't see them. So I called Bellarmine. Where are you? So we've gone. As we have gone, we are on the highway going towards Mango. I think we are almost even passing Mango. Why? And yet we were to meet at the police station and reorganize ourselves. So we get to the police station and it's just me and Dad. So Dad is like, no, you're not the one who is going to follow these people because you are a lady, you may not know what to do. You and Bellarmine are the same thing. Should they be malicious, they will just deal with you. I am the one to go. But hold a minute, let me go like this. I help myself, relieve myself, then I come. He went. He was not coming back. I'm becoming impatient because it is almost 8 already. And I said, okay, if it is there is any malice with these police officers, the longer we take, the more the problem. So I came out. I decided I'm not following him there. I came out. I saw the border, picked one, and suggested he goes via the flyover, the Juja flyover, so that I joined them the other side. So as I am passing, I called Bellarmine, who told me that they're already on their way coming back. So on coming back, he's like, okay, let me, I'm on a piki, but I know we shall meet somewhere. We shall be talking, because I had taken the number of the vehicle. And I was requesting Bellarmine, let them not enter anywhere, let them remain on the highway so that I can see them. Not on the highway really, but that feeder road, so that I can get them. So as I'm getting to the other side, Bellarmine tells me, no, these officers are saying, according to their compass, the pin is pointing to the other side. So we are coming back so that we go to search for the phone, the other side of the road. Now the road on this other side that goes to Thika. It was frustrating. So I tell the piki, let's go back. So we turn around and go back. Of course, they passed us on that flyover. They got to the station earlier. Me, I got to where I had picked the piki. I paid him. By the time I was getting inside, they were already inside. And I could see the father of Lewis plus the Juja police station officers, 2 of them or 3 of them, don't even remember. They were standing off. So the DCI officers were standing at the other side, also alone. And so me, I go to where the father was. I asked him, what is the development around? Then I find him asking them. What I don't understand is why my son's phone is still on. If whatever has happened, but this phone is expected to be off because it never used to keep power for more than 24 hours. It has been more than 24 hours. Who is charging his phone? And then these officers realized that probably I'm likely to understand what was happening. So they tell me to go and wait for them in the car. And I went to the car. As I'm waiting, I'm wondering, what is that talk all about? And then my husband comes and tells me, sorry, the worst has happened. Our son is no more. I didn't wait for him to finish. I just broke down. I was in tears. I wanted to walk out. I wanted to just tear myself up. I wanted to be dead. I didn't want anything. I cried for the longest time. The father and my other son were holding on to me to remain in the car so that I don't come out. That's what happened. Then when my son saw that I was completely almost going, you know, I'm usually hypertensive. They thought that would affect me. So to him, it's like, Mom, calm down, calm down. Until it is confirmed that it is Lewis's body, it could be someone else. Okay. So I said, okay. So they decided that they are going to confirm. So that goes with those officers from DCI's office to go and confirm Lewis. They go, they confirm Lewis in his full clothes as he left home. Everything, including, okay, the shoes were not there, but at least the trouser, his t-shirt, his jacket, he had his wristwatch on, and the buckle, there was a buckle that he used to use. This one of the youths, the one they like pulling like this. He was in full clothes. The following day, as we go to view our son, he has been stripped of his clothes. He had started swelling. They had embalmed the body. So to us, it's like, and you know, in the meantime, you go there and the police do not even allow you to even lift the cloth that has covered him. They tell you, oh, this is a police case. You can't move close to this body. But then I asked them, why are they allowing like the mortuary to tamper with the body, removing his clothes, embalming his body? Why? So they had covered him, we didn't open up. We left it at that. But of course I peeped through and saw the way he had been pulled. He was pulled, so kulikuwa na majera on this side about at his back. Ni kama alivurutwa hivi. I don't know when that pulling was happening. I don't know. So, but of course I broke down. My pressure shot up. I went completely, I fainted. I was carried to hospital and I was treated, and then we came back home. The other anomaly is that on that Saturday when we went viewing Lewis's body, we arrived there at around 9:30, and we were kept waiting up to around 4 because they said you can't go viewing the body in the mortuary alone. The mortuary attendants were under instructions not to allow us to view the body. And therefore we said, okay, to go, we must go with a police officer. So that when that police officer was called Dennis Ndeto Mosina. When he came around, I requested that I wanted to see the tree on which they say Lewis committed suicide on. They said they had found him hanging at the coffee plantation. So my understanding was that Lewis had committed suicide on a coffee plantation. And I wanted to know how big was that coffee plantation. But now when we got there, it's like they're showing us a cypress tree which is by the side of the coffee plantation. And the rope on which they said Lewis hanged himself was still there. And the tree was not, the branch was not thick. It was an arm thick and a dry branch. Meaning that just a basic jacking, because when someone is dying, jacks, it would have broken. So it wouldn't actually held Lewis's body up there. They said, we don't know what Lewis was having in his bag, but 4 books was found in his bag, and the shoes were found in his bag with a sisal twine, this Manila. Not sisal, but Manila string. Those things, I still have them preserved just like that, because I don't know when they will be required again or what will happen. There was only books and that. And I know that string was for survey. So the police officers is like, you see, your son has been looking for committing suicide. He has been walking around with these strings. We tell them, no. These strings, we know them. Their function is what? For survey works. So now, the postmortem was done on 14th. That's when it revealed, like, the postmortem. I shared it with you, yes, that he had been stabbed. There were some knife pierces on the stomach, in his private parts, and the deep cuts here by the kneecap, the inner side, on both sides, and blood had clotted inside there. And I find that scenario, and I start asking. We went there with this officer called Dennis Ndetu, who was very uncooperative. The brothers wanted to take a video of the scenario, the place. They refused. They wanted to take even just a pin of the place. They refused. So we were being hurried around. So we hurried through. It's like us, we have so many other things to do. So let's go to the mortuary very fast and come back. So we go to the mortuary, and we find the scenario that I described. His clothes stripped off. The boy was very swollen. Embalming had already started happening. And of course, they couldn't allow us to lift off the sheet that they were covering him. But I was able to peep and saw the dragging marks on his back. And that's when we started saying, no, it can't be suicide. It can't be. Because you cannot commit suicide and drag yourself on the ground. That is one. 2, I looked at my son, the state in which he was. It can't be suicide. It couldn't have been suicide. Because I had been told some long time ago that someone who commits suicide will die na wasiwasi mingi, understand? Ulimi itakuwa imetoka, macho itakuwa imeprotrude out. Lewis was composed, sleeping with his lips closed. So I said, no, it can't be suicide. So, and then we now immediately started thinking about postmortem. And then the postmortem, this gentleman called Dennis Ndetu was like, it can be done 2 weeks from today. Why 2 weeks? These doctors are not there. Can we hire other doctors to do the work? It's like, no, it must be a government pathologist. So yes, but we can walk around and get some other government pathologists to come and do the work. So when he saw that we were adamant, because that was Saturday, and he says, okay, the earliest that we can do is maybe next week. Let me call the officer. He calls the officer says he was in Naivasha or Nakuru. And then he said that he will be back in office on Monday, but he can't do it on Monday because there are many other things that had been planned before. So he fixes the postmortem on Tuesday, 14th. What time? 2. And then on Monday, a friend of mine who had been, she's a lawyer and she's a neighbor, and she was a commissioner of IEBC before. She calls me, Irene, do you know what? I'm told NSIS have received a file, Lewis's file, closing the case. That officer fixed the postmortem for Tuesday, but Monday I'm being told that NSIS has received the file closing the case on suicide. So I called my husband. He was not here. He had started preparing for burial, therefore he had traveled home. So he calls the mortuary attendant. Someone, is it Wambani or Ambani? I will confirm that name. And he asks, we are doing the postmortem tomorrow. What is the position? Is that still the current position? Then he affirmed yes. And what is this? I hear there is a file that has been received at NSIS. He says, no, nothing like that. The postmortem is going to be tomorrow. So I don't know whether it is the officers at Juja who are working around to justify that case of suicide, having come up with a fictitious postmortem behind the scenes which we were not privy to. For example, they removed Lewis's clothes. We were never given those clothes again. Even after postmortem, we requested for those clothes. It's like zilichoma. The first thing was, the body was brought here naked. It did not have clothes. So the father is like, no, on Friday, when I came here, I confirmed my son was still in his full, clean clothes. So I want them. So now when he insisted like that, it's like, we burnt them. Understand? So the postmortem people know who is it who went bribing them. It's like to release the clothes to them. So if systems were working, that is where to start. Who is it who came picking Lewis's clothes from you? And then now it works backwards.
What did the real postmortem reveal?
The real postmortem revealed those biases, knife biases. It revealed torture. Even the thighs were pierced. It revealed the deep cuts, the interior part of the kneecap on both sides. It even had clots of blood inside, meaning that he had been tortured, and those things, those knife bangs had been inflicted on him when he was still alive. That's how you can get blood clotting inside those wounds. It also had, his legs had deep cuts, parallel, this bone, how would you call it? Is it femur or something? It revealed Lewis had his collarbone of the left hand broken. He had his 11th rib on the right hand side also again broken. It also revealed a bang here on the frontal part of. So to us it's like, okay, and how that postmortem came to be done that way. We went talking, a friend of mine introduced me to Dr. Odor, who is a government pathologist, I think. I don't know at what level, but he's very senior, who happens to be a supervisor of this other pathologist that the police officer were using, stationed at Thika Level 5 hospital. And then the family also engaged a Professor Rugena. Professor Rugena is a lecturer. He lectures both University of Nairobi and Juja J.K. Watt, Department of Medicine. So there were two whom the family engaged, and then there was that other one who was attached at Thika, whose name I think is on that post-mortem. He must have signed on it. So the post-mortem revealed that there was that torture, that Lewis was tortured. He did not die. Then they strangled him manually. It was after he has been strangled manually that they took him and hanged him on that tree. And that rope had not been tied with a nod. Ilizungushwa tu. Just kushikilia mwili hapo, and then they took off. No, and that's what pains me a lot. No one has been arrested. Every time you talk to the police, it's like they want you to believe it was suicide. You forget about that case and such like things. I recently went complaining to the deputy DCI, Mr. Shamala, who picked up the case and called the homicide officer. What is his name? They claimed that they're starting the case all over again. It has been now like a month. There is no briefing of what is happening. I have called them twice. One of the times the lady tells me, even right now I'm in Juja following up with this case. Whether that is true or she's somewhere else, can't verify. About healing, I think that is not something that will happen today or tomorrow. It will not. Because it has been like almost 11 months since it happened, because 9th January to now. And yet occasionally I find myself remembering Lewis, wondering why they had to kill him. And I just go back into depression all over again. Every time I remember, it's like it has just happened yesterday. The best things that would have happened maybe to assist me heal is if those people who are closely at least connected to the story in one way or another were either arrested or were interrogated, at least to say what may have happened realistically and without looking like they are covering up. Maybe it would help me. And here I start with Benedict Skuku, the boy who comes in trembling, after he has already known that Lewis was dead when we were not even privy today. We didn't know. We had not been informed. Somehow he already knew. How did he know? That's one person who should have been questioned to bring up the stories of what he knows. Okay, there is this mortuary attendant who bribed him to release Lewis's clothes and starts throwing words here and there. Bo, the body was brought naked. Bo, the clothes were burnt. How? How were clothes to be burnt when it was a police case? These were evidence. Yeah, to that.